Chapter 58, The Methanol. Suddenly, an old document in Russian appeared on the screen, marked with a red, top secret, stamp from the KGB. Julius Fox pointed at the document and read aloud, "Your father was a jazz guitarist in Soviet Azerbaijan. But in the Soviet Union, jazz music was banned. Then he officially played folk music. He defected during an international folk music festival in Denmark, Aarhus, where he met your mother. They got your sister and 2 years later you. Your family started running a small inn in the city center of Aarhus." He continued, "It was like a dream come true, but things went horribly wrong. One morning, the guests at the inn discovered your parents and sister dead. You were found unconscious. Right from the start, the Western media pointed fingers at the Soviet Union for being responsible for the tragic deaths. They drew parallels with the case of the Bulgarian writer Georgy Markov, who a few years earlier had been poisoned in London by the Bulgarian intelligence service using an umbrella." He cast an intense look at Azer and continued, "I know you're a journalist, and you might have come across information about East Germany's plans to attack Denmark with nuclear weapons during the tense Cold War period. That's why the KGB asked the East German intelligence agency, Stasi, to investigate the case. They sent me to Aarhus, your hometown in Denmark." He added, "I visited you while you were in a deep coma, being cared for in the intensive care unit of the tall building at the municipal hospital." Changing the photo on the screen, he continued, "This is an image of you lying in bed, connected to various machines and tubes. This picture made it to the front page of newspapers all over the Western world." Switching the photo again, he said, "I managed to secretly photograph your blood test results and send them to Moscow." Continuing, he said, "You know, during the time of the Soviet Union, Russians were known for their considerable vodka consumption. They often drank more than they could afford, and many families had their own secret alcohol distillation setups at home, usually run by the father. He'd often drain the last drop from the previous batch and then start a new distillation round again. Tragically, sometimes instead of ethanol, he'd accidentally end up producing methanol, a deadly poison. When the family gathered to try the new batch, they all were poisoned, except the father, who had ethanol in his blood. The KGB knew this pattern well, a whole family wiped out except for one survivor. Late one night, I broke into your hostel, which had been marked, 'Access Prohibited,' by the police. I checked the guest list in the registration book and took this photograph." He pointed the laser beam at the names of 2 guests and read out, "Håkon and Knut Berg, from Norway." Turning to Azer, he asked, "I was certain this handwriting belonged to you. Am I right?" Azer nodded. Julius Fox continued, "Under paid, there's no money mentioned, just a dash. They didn't pay with Danish krone, instead, they used something else. Is that correct?" Azer nodded and replied, "They paid with a 5-liter container of homebrewed alcohol." The professor turned to Azer and asked, "Had you consumed ethanol before?" Azer nodded and said, "Yes, I had. I had some beers with my friends a few hours earlier." He added, "The next day was my sister's birthday. I had told her about the alcohol container and asked her to keep it secret. But she let it slip during dinner, giggling. In Denmark, it's a tradition to have shots of schnapps with pickled herring, and that's exactly what we were having. My mom insisted on celebrating my sister's birthday with a few shots. After a while, my parents became silent, and my sister went blind and started screaming. She kept screaming until the early morning hours. Eventually, she too fell silent. My vision was blurry, and I was disoriented. With a mix of regret and guilt, he murmured, "I can still hear my sister's screams." Julius Fox said, "On your own, you unknowingly triggered a major international crisis between the East and West, which could have led to a nuclear war and wiped out humanity. I managed to prevent it." He added, "Our world is a dangerous place, filled with secrets. I propose we leave the past behind." To solidify their agreement, Julius Fox extended his hand across the table. However, the professor declined the handshake. After a moment, Julius Fox withdrew his hand and said, "Thank you for coming." He picked up his phone, tapped the screen, and instructed the security chief, "We're done here. Please escort these gentlemen to their vessel." A moment later, the head of security returned and with his machine gun aimed at the professor and Azer guided them out of the office. As they approached the door, Julius Fox called the security officer back and whispered, "I'll be returning to the castle soon. Use the speedboat to follow the fishing boat to a safe distance, orchestrate an accident for them, and send me video documentation immediately."